Okay, we'll continue in the middle of the page. Perik Aleph, Pasuk Aleph, the very first Pasuk of the Chumash, of the Vayikra. Vayikra el Moshe, and he called to Moshe. He used capital H because he's referring to Hashem, and he called to Moshe. Vaydaber Hashem elav me'oel moed lemor. He spoke to him from the Mishkan. The Mishkan was that temporary temple that the Jewish people had in the desert as they traveled from Mitzrayim. Okay, so you notice that the first word of the Pasuk is Vayikra, and that's where the book gets its name. And the first parsha is Vayikra. Okay, if you look at the word Vayikra, you probably have noticed there's something unusual. No, it's not a mistake. You'll notice that the Aleph is actually smaller than the rest of the letters, and that is actually the way that is written in the Sefer Torah itself. So in the printed Chumashim, they kept that difference as well to show that that's how it's written in the Sefer Torah. Note that the Aleph in the word Vayikra is smaller than the other letters. Okay? Now, let's take a look why. That's by design. That's not by accident. Let's see why. So, Vayikra el Moshe means, and he called to Moshe. It tells us that before Hashem would speak to Moshe, he would always call him by name. Meaning, instead of saying, speak to Bnei Israel, Hashem would say, Moshe, please speak to Moshe Bnei Israel. Which, by saying the person's name, it shows, says Rashi, it's a way to show appreciation, to show respect, to show love for a person. So instead of saying to somebody, come here, you say, Ari, come here. Or to say, Debbie, could you get this, is different than saying, get this. By saying the person's name, it shows that you appreciate the person, you have a certain high regard for the person. So that's why anytime that Hashem would speak to Moshe, he wouldn't just speak to Moshe, he would first call him by name to show that Hashem respects Moshe, he values Moshe. Okay, so that's about Moshe. But we know from Tanakh that Hashem spoke to many other people, and some of those people, by the way, especially one Bilam, was infamous. He was a very, very bad person. On the other hand, when Hashem spoke to the prophet Bilam, it says that Vayakar el Bilam. Vayakar is from the word kara, kuf resh he, like ma kara lecha, what happened to you. Vayikar means he just happened. Vayikar Hashem el Bilam means that Hashem suddenly came to Bilam. That means that Hashem did not call Bilam by name first. When Hashem wanted Bilam to go to Bnei Israel or to go do something, he wouldn't say, Bilam, do this, or Bilam, do that, or Bilam, don't do this. He just talked to him all of a sudden. So Vayikar is from the word kara, which just means to happen to come, to happen to speak. So Vayikar el Bilam means Hashem happened to come to Bilam. He spoke to Bilam, but he did not call him by name before he spoke to him. And the reason for that is obvious, because Bilam was not deserving of respect, he was not deserving of honor. It's a whole discussion why Hashem spoke to Bilam if he was not such a righteous person. That's a different discussion that we'll have later on in the year where we get to talk about Bilam. But he spoke to Bilam, he did not call him by name because Bilam was not worthy of respect or appreciation and so on. So Hashem just spoke to him suddenly. So what we see here is that there's a big difference between the way that Hashem approaches Moshe, a righteous person, as opposed to when he approaches a person who is undeserving of honor. To Moshe, he calls him by name to show that he values Moshe, he respects him as a person. To Bilam, he just speaks to him without showing him that appreciation because Bilam, unfortunately, was not worthy of such recognition. So now we're going to get to the following. Again, we're trying to understand why the Aleph in Vayikra is small. So here we go. Number 3. When Hashem wanted Moshe to write down Vayikra el Moshe, when Hashem was dictating word for word the Torah to Moshe and tell him what to write, so when Hashem said Vayikra el Moshe, this would let everybody know for all future generations that Hashem had a high respect, a high regard for Moshe Rabbeinu. Now Moshe, because of his great humility, we know that Moshe was the most humble of people. He felt embarrassed to write that in the Torah. He didn't feel comfortable writing for all generations that Hashem had such a high regard for him. Therefore he wanted to write instead Vayikra el Moshe. He wanted to write Vayikra Hashem el Moshe. He wanted to write about himself that Hashem just spoke with him like a regular person who is not such an important person. He wanted to write instead Vayikra Hashem el Moshe, just like it says by Bilam. And this would not publicize, it would hide the fact that Hashem had such love for Moshe Rabbeinu. So again, Moshe wanted to write about himself in the Torah, Vayikra Hashem el Moshe. Hashem just came to Moshe, just like he came to Bilam, without any announcement that he was so great and he had such respect, because again, Moshe is very humble. So this is why the Aleph is written smaller than the other letters, to show that Moshe felt uncomfortable, right? He felt uncomfortable announcing to everybody that Hashem had such regard for him by writing Vayikra. Moshe didn't want to write Vayikra. He wanted to write Vayikra, but Hashem told him, you know, Moshe, this is the way that I want you to write it. It's important for people to know that you are such an amazing person, and because of his humility, he just wrote it small. So this is why the Aleph is written smaller than the other letters, to show that Moshe felt uncomfortable writing Vayikra, which means that Hashem had such regard for him. Okay, now we go to the beginning of Parshat Kedoshim, which is in the middle of Vayikra. We're skipping obviously many chapters because we're only doing a portion of Sefer Vayikra. We go to Perek Yutet. There's a couple of words about this Perek that you should know. An Eidah is a community or a congregation. Kadosh means holy, Holy. Tiyo from the word Haveh is you will be. Okay, so in order to go further, we're going to take a look at the Chumash. You don't need to get a Chumash for this lesson. You have the photocopy here in the video, so you can refer to this. I'm going to read the first pasuk, first two pasukim together. Okay, so Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, meaning to tell over the following message. Daber el kol adat bnei Israel. You should speak to the entire congregation of Bnei Israel, to the entire Jewish people. V'amarta aleihem, and say to them, Kedoshim tihiyu. You shall be holy. Ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokeichem. Because I, Hashem, your God, am holy. So this is the message. If you go back to your notes. So Hashem told Moshe to speak to the entire Jewish people. Now this is a bit unusual because throughout the 40 years in the desert, Moshe spoke many times to the Jewish people. And it doesn't always say, in fact, it only says a few times that he should speak to the entire Jewish people. Usually it says speak to the Jewish people. The difference is, on a regular basis when Moshe spoke to the Bnei Israel, many people came, most of them came, maybe all of them came, but the point is that they did not necessarily have to be there when Moshe spoke to them. However, there are several times in the Torah where the Torah makes it clear that the entire Jewish people had to be present to hear a certain message that apparently was very important. And this is one of such cases. That's why the pasuk says, Daber el kol adat ben Israel. Speak to the entire Jewish people. Normally it says speak to the Bnei Israel. Here it says kol adat Bnei Israel, because again this was a very important series of messages, as we're going to learn. So number one, Hashem told Moshe to speak to the entire Jewish people, to the entire Bnei Israel. What did he tell them? So that he told them to be holy. Right? And the pasuk said, why should they be holy? What is the reason? So it says, because I, Hashem, your God, am holy. Right? Which means that since Hashem created human beings in His image, since Hashem is holy, we also have the ability to be holy. Okay, so what we're going to spend a couple of minutes doing is understanding what exactly is the mitzvah of you should be holy. Okay, what does it mean to be holy? Especially in view of the fact that we know that the Torah has 613 mitzvot. It already tells us in great detail the values that the Torah wants us to live by, what kind of people we should be. So everything is specified clearly in terms of mitzvot taseh, mitzvot that we should do, mitzvot lo taseh, things that we should avoid doing. So what more is there to do when it says be holy? What does holy mean beyond keeping all the mitzvot? Right? So that's the question. What does exactly mean? What is the meaning of you shall be holy? What is that value teaching us above and beyond all the other mitzvot that we have? Okay, so this is a question that is discussed by many meforshim. We're going to focus on the answer that the Ramban, which is Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, gives. He was born in Spain and he lived at the end of his life in Israel, where he's buried. And he lived a little bit after Rashi's time in the Middle Ages. So he wants to explain to us what is the meaning of Kedoshim Tihiyu. And he says a very, very important concept. He says, the Torah allows us to enjoy many physical things. The Torah does not expect us or encourage us to avoid the physical pleasures of the world. There are some religions that do, where they look down upon enjoying the physical pleasures that the world has to offer, and it rejects them. It says the ideal is to separate yourself from those physical things. So in other religions where the physical world is basically rejected, it's very black and white. You avoid those things, and that's how you become a person who is in compliance with the religious values of that particular religion. But in a Torah way of life, what the Torah looks for is not that approach to life. God created a world, a physical world, and the world has many, many wonderful things for us to enjoy. And it's great that it's there for us to enjoy. However, because it is allowed, there is a danger there. And the danger is that we might become obsessed with those physical things, become a person who's driven and obsessed by materialistic things. And in the process of becoming so obsessed with those material things, we might degrade ourselves. We might bring ourselves down to become a person who's very materialistic and have a life that is decadent. So, for example, the Torah allows us to eat meat. The Torah allows us to have nice things. So a person might become so obsessed with eating that becomes a gluttonous person, a person who's out of control. Or if you enjoy clothing or wealth or whatever it is that Torah allows us, and it's a wonderful thing to enjoy, but keeping a healthy perspective, not to become obsessed to the point where you become a decadent person in doing that. So the Ramban says, Kedoshim Tihiyu is telling us, yes, we have all these mitzvot, but the problem is that you could keep all the mitzvot and yet become a person who has a lifestyle that is a very decadent type of lifestyle. You could follow the rules of the Torah and not be a holy person. A holy person means that you should have a balanced way of life, that you should appreciate the importance of spirituality in your life and not to become dragged down by materialistic things. So that's the call of Kedoshim. Kedoshim is a way of life, is an appreciation of having a balanced way of life where there is spirituality along with the physical, which is really the highest ideal of our Torah. The Torah wants us to enjoy the physical world, wants us to use the physical things that exist, but use it in a way that enhances our humanity, our spirituality, to become a refined person, not to become a decadent person. This is how the Ramban explains the mitzvah of Kedoshim Tihiyu.